Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking some absolutely wild, esoteric revelations about the lost continent we all know as Lemuria. But we're getting this straight from a very unique spiritual source text. We're going to explore these claims completely impartially, looking strictly at what the text presents and how it completely reframes a myth you probably thought you already knew.
The source material we're looking at is called The Truth of Lemuria, Spoken by the Gods. In this explainer, we'll be examining its highly specific and honestly pretty unexpected claims about ancient history, cosmic interventions, and lost civilizations. Now remember, we are not here to endorse these viewpoints. We're just the messengers, here to structure the exact narrative this fascinating book lays out so you can understand it for yourself.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here's our agenda for today. We'll be covering the Phantom Continent Lamudia, Paradise of Art and Sensibility, two different views on art, Zeus's lightning and aliens, false god, and Enlil's identity, and finally, continent sinking and human lessons.
Section 1. The Phantom Continent, Lamudia.
So most of us have heard the name Lemuria, right? But our source text throws a massive curveball right off the bat. It frames Lemuria as just a later, earthly scientific hypothesis. Basically, 19th century scientists just named it after the habitat of lemurs in Madagascar. But the spiritual reading claims the actual, authentic, ancient pronunciation was actually much closer to Lamudia. So right away, we are completely reframing our starting point, from a scientific theory to an esoteric history.
Section 2. Paradise of Art and Sensibility.
Now, when you picture ancient histories, you probably imagine military conquests, basic survival, or maybe building massive stone pyramids. But Lamudia is described as a profoundly different kind of society. It was a prosperous era entirely defined by highly developed sensibilities. In the civilization, artistic talent wasn't just some weekend hobby. It was deeply respected as the absolute core pillar of their entire culture. So the crucial point is that in Lamudia, human evolution wasn't measured by technology or brute strength at all. It was measured by perception and aesthetics. The source text details how people who were highly artistic and had really refined senses were revered above everybody else. Having a highly tuned sensibility was essentially the ultimate status symbol of an advanced human being in this era.
Section 3. Two different views on art. And this brilliantly illustrates the massive ideological divide right at the heart of Lamudia. On one side, you've got the spiritual figure of Zeus. His philosophy valued one-of-a-kind, totally unique creations filled with divine inspiration and light. But then on the other side, we have Manu, who had a much more systematic approach. He wanted to peacefully evolve humanity through structured competition, evaluation, and scoring. It's literally the ultimate ancient debate between raw, spontaneous inspiration and structured, methodical refinement.
As the text explicitly summarizes in this quote, differences in their views on art. Zeus valued one-of-a-kind creations, whereas Manu sought evolution through competition. These differing approaches directly shaped the culture of Lamudia. Again, we're just impartially reporting these claims, but it's incredibly fascinating to see how the text uses well-known mythological figures to represent such deep, conflicting artistic philosophies.
Section 4. Zeus's lightning and aliens. Okay, take a breath, because we are about to take a dramatic turn into sci-fi territory. We all know the classical Greek myth of the god Zeus throwing magical lightning bolts from Mount Olympus to strike down his enemies, right? Well, what if it wasn't magic at all? Our source text poses a radical reinterpretation. What was the true identity of this legendary weapon? The text drops a complete bombshell here. According to these spiritual readings, Zeus's lightning was actually a destructive beam, essentially an advanced ray or laser. And get this, where did it come from? It was acquired through direct interaction with extraterrestrials. Specifically, the text mentions zeta reticulans. So ancient mythological magic is completely reframed here as advanced alien technology. No way, right?
Now, what's really interesting about the passage on screen is that it explicitly states that what humanity thought was the wrath of the gods was literally just a destructive beam obtained from these extraterrestrial interactions. It's a massive departure from classical mythology, but it's presented straight up as historical fact within this spiritual reading.
Section 5. False God and Enlil's identity.
Shifting gears from ancient myth to modern interpretations, the source text also seeks to set the esoteric record straight. In certain modern alternative spiritual circles, especially those following the teachings of Shinji Takahashi, there is a lot of talk about a figure named El Ranti. However, our source text takes a hard line against this, explicitly stating that El Ranti simply does not exist in reality.
It goes even further, actually recharacterizing Takahashi's spiritual origins entirely. The text claims his core spirit was actually Enlil. Now, the name Enlil pops up in ancient Sumerian text a lot, usually as a supreme creator deity. But this specific source text completely flips the script, identifying him strictly as an aggressive figure and a god of destruction. It's a huge reinterpretation of the spiritual narrative surrounding those modern teachings.
Section 6. Continent Sinking and Human Lessons. Let's move to the end and see how this all builds to the tragic fall of Lamudia. The text lays out a very clear, cautionary timeline. Step 1. Their culture of high artistic sensibility and beauty flourishes. But this ultimately leads to Step 2, an excessive indulgence in those very sensual pleasures. This indulgence results in Step 3, the moral corruption of the civilization's soul. And finally, the ultimate consequence, Step 4, the continent is entirely submerged into the sea by the direct will of the heavenly world.
And to put that into perspective, according to the source, this was not a slow, natural geological shift over millions of years. The text explicitly describes a sudden, catastrophic submergence. It was a rapid, world-ending event brought on by divine judgment, acting as a direct consequence of Lamudia's spiritual decay.
Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. If a civilization like Lamudia, one entirely defined by advanced art, deep sensibilities, and beauty, can ultimately corrupt its own soul through excessive indulgence and face sudden divine destruction, what does that mean for our modern world? Are we heading down the same path with our own endless pursuit of pleasure? It's a fascinating, esoteric cautionary tale to reflect on. Thank you so much for joining me to structure and understand this unique text today. Keep your curiosity sharp, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.